Tokage, a powerful typhoon at sea. An impressive typhoon is currently loitering off the coast of Japan this morning at 33.8 north, 148.6 degrees east. A Category 2 Typhoon Tokage expected to continue northwards and then curve northeastwards. As of 7 AM Japan Standard Time, it had winds of 175 kilometers per hour and a pressure of 960 millibars, moving north-northwest at 17 miles per hour, that's 27 kilometers per hour. Just off the threshold, just below the threshold of Category 3 status. Right now, here is the position of the storm displayed on the map. As you can see, no distinct land areas anywhere near, and its wind field extending out up to 105 nautical miles on the northeastern quadrant and 65 at the minimum distance. At the moment it is 738 kilometers from Choshi in southeastern Japan, 783 from Iwaki, 852 from Sendai, 1204 from Sapporo on Hokkaido, and 2284 from Petropavlovsk in Kamchatka. So quite a distance before it gets anywhere near there. The storm will bypass the Kuril Islands eventually and sweep off towards the northeast out into the northern abyss of the North Pacific. So the storm is very far away from land, so the primary hazard will be rip currents, which are possible for coastal areas of eastern and northern Japan for the next couple of days. I doubt it will be anything severe, particularly with a frontal system moving through Japan, which will probably mitigate those impacts, to be quite honest with you, but always a threat when storms are out at sea for rip currents. So let's take a look at the storm's forecast and a wider shot there showing just how far away it is from Japan, and the expected wind forecast, there it is, and turning post-tropical by the time we get to the end of the week, and off it goes through the Aleutian Islands eventually by the weekend, where it will completely dissipate. So a very quick animation there, not too much to see. The storm will not threaten any land areas as a tropical storm. Here's a look at the wind spread, and a decent agreement amongst all agencies for the sustained winds, all at Category 2 intensity at least. JTWC in the middle with 105 miles per hour, JMA at the lower end at 100, and we're opting with our analysis at the higher end of 110 miles per hour, supported by NOAA and SSEC ADT, the Dvorak technique, AMSU slightly lower as well. Close up there of the JTWC forecast track, and they're expecting a Category 3 peak shortly. That was from their forecast earlier, and then they weaken it gradually after that. So an interesting forecast that they've gone with, and eventually they're headed towards Alaska. Here it is on the GFS model, showing their post-tropical transition, quite a strong storm still when it does that, probably still a typhoon strength when it turns post-tropical. And then off it goes, it sweeps off well to the northeast. Just on that end of that run there, day 6 and 7, another typhoon headed for Japan, but whether that's got any validity or not, we'll find out in the tropical weather bulletin later. There it goes again, the storm moving off northeastwards, a nice decent curve really, and then it will completely be wiped away. Here's a look at the water vapor, and there's a decent amount in it, so some fair amount of energy there, marked by those yellows that we saw at the beginning of that animation, and then it moves through those islands once again towards the Bering Sea. And there again is that other typhoon on that late part of the forecast. There it goes again, and you can see the air mass just pushing off to the east and well away from land areas, with the rainfall as well as the wind. And just a casual look at the sea surface temperatures. Oh no, we're not. Overstepped myself there just a moment. Here's the rainfall expectations. and you can see once again that most areas aren't going to be affected by the storm. If the storm does affect the islands up there, the Aleutian Islands, it will be post-tropical, but it could deliver small amounts of rain, maybe 1 to 2 inches. There's some maximums there, around 1.5 inches. That's just about 40 millimeters of rain, and lesser amounts the closer you get to Alaska, at least the mainland. And nothing too much else to talk about there. And the sea surface temperatures, which I was too eager to talk about, currently hovering around 28, maybe pushing 29 degrees Celsius. As we've mentioned on many tropical weather bulletins in the past, the very warm sea surface temperatures extend very far north, so it's really little surprise that we're seeing things like this, a strong storm at a fairly high latitude. It's not extremely high, but it is getting up there, and temperatures look to be okay for another day or two, still at around 26 on day 1. So let's take a look at this rather stirring satellite imagery of how this storm has been progressing, and that bout of potentially rapid intensification that occurred there to high-end Category 2 status. Interesting to note, and as is often the case with these higher latitude systems, that the deep cloud tops don't really last very long, and indeed right now they're fairly shallow. Reminds me a lot of Atlantic hurricanes at those higher latitudes, to be honest, but it's still holding on to minus 60 degree cloud tops there, denoted in the green areas. And the eye temperature is warming as well, to offset that into probably the mid-teens by now. So certainly a decent structure on the storm, but certainly lacking the full package that would make it a stronger typhoon towards Category 4 and above. But the structure would certainly support that kind of thing if it was further south. Looking at some close-up visible imagery, there's certainly no problems with how picturesque it looks this morning. You can see it there to the untrained eye. It looks like a classic strong typhoon, but once again those shallow cloud tops just do it a little bit of disservice, and it's looking a little bit ragged on the northwestern side there. Let's take a look at some more imagery. Here's some more infrared, a real close-up. Now this can sometimes throw people off guard, and particularly this enhancement can often suggest that the storm is stronger than it is. Even on this imagery though, you can see that the northwestern quadrant has been waning in those last few frames, and it makes me wonder whether it will hold on to this intensity for very long, or whether it will capitulate a little bit and shrink back down to, well, at least in strength, down to a Category 1 later on. Of course it will do eventually. And finally a look at the water vapor imagery compared to where Japan is there on the left hand side of the imagery. The storm is staying well away, and it's going to be lifted up by that frontal system that's currently moving through the Japanese islands, still very far away from land, and will remain the case for the whole of the storm. The main reason for this update is to just provide all that information, and just to maybe appreciate a little bit how well it's been looking on that satellite imagery. We'll have another update on this storm if necessary, although my guess is probably not.